Hi, I'm Sammy Murrian and I write about film and television for Parade Magazine. The Big Sick is directed by Michael Showalter and this is written by Emily Gordon and Kumail Nanjiani. They are a real-life husband and wife and this is the true story of how they met and became a couple. Kumail plays himself when he was a struggling stand-up comic from a traditional Muslim Pakistani family. Kumail's family wanted him to enter an arranged marriage, as was their culture. Then he met Emily, a white girl who heckles him at a stand-up show. They fall in love, they date for a little while, they break up when Emily finds out about Kumail's family situation. Kumail is still totally in love with her, and shortly after they break up, Emily falls into a coma, unexpectedly, with a mystery illness. Again, this is the real-life story of what happened. While Emily is in a coma, Kumail meets her parents, who in this film are played by Holly Hunter and Ray Romano. What I have told you is in the trailer, so I don't feel like there's any major spoilers. I definitely don't want to tell you any more than that. On my channel a few weeks ago, I reviewed the movie Snatched, that classic that we all remember, that classic comedy. When I reviewed Snatched, I said that about 30 seconds into that movie, I knew that it was just going to suck, that it was just going to be really unfunny. I feel like with many movies, and maybe especially with comedies, you can tell that in like the first 30 seconds. Watching Snatched, I was just like, okay. I had a somewhat similar experience watching The Big Sick, only a little bit different. And I'll tell you how it was a little bit different. About 30 seconds into watching The Big Sick, I knew that I was in good hands, that everything was going to work, this movie was going to be great. I love this movie. This is actually my favorite movie that I have seen so far in 2017. As I've said many times on my channel, my favorite genre is horror. It's just my personal favorite. I love horror. I love great horror movies. Often horror movies are terrible, far more often than they're good, but that is my favorite genre. As far as my favorite genres go, a very close second for me is the romantic comedy. Just as with horror, unfortunately, I mean, by and large, most romantic comedies are formulaic, uninspired, not good. So, you know, as a whole, the genre sometimes gets something of a bad rap. On the rare occasion that you find a great romantic comedy where everything works and all of the pieces fit together, it's exhilarating to watch. That's my personal take on the genre of romantic comedies. This is the best romantic comedy in years. Years. I don't consider Bridesmaids a romantic comedy. That's a comedy. The romance is a very small part of that film. That movie's more about friends and friendship, so I don't consider Bridesmaids a romantic comedy. As far as recent romantic comedies that are on this level, the only ones that I can think of are Enough Said, Nicole Holofcener's film from like 4 years ago with Julia Louis-Dreyfus and James Gandolfini. That movie's great. If you haven't seen it, that movie's amazing. Also, of course, Silver Linings Playbook. You know, I don't take comparisons to Silver Linings Playbook lightly at all because that is one of my very favorite movies. That movie's very personal to me. But I mean, I have to be honest, The Big Sick really is on that level. Judd Apatow produced The Big Sick, and I love some of Judd Apatow's movies. I mean, The 40-Year-Old Virgin is like a masterpiece. I really like Knocked Up. I love many of his movies. I'm not crazy about all of his films. I think some Judd Apatow movies, both ones that he has produced and ones that he has directed, they can be self-indulgent. Also, sometimes mean-spirited. The humor can just... When you have an R-rated comedy and you have people improvising and, you know, getting really big, sometimes the humor gets fairly mean-spirited. Sometimes it definitely gets over the top. This is the best Judd Apatow movie since The 40-Year-Old Virgin, and a big reason for that is how much heart this movie has. This movie is just filled with heart. This is an R-rated comedy. This does have an R rating mainly because there's, you know, a lot of dirty words, some sex humor, things like that. I mean, nothing that's gonna, like, shock you. This is a romantic comedy that is just full of heart, and it's very sweet, and it is hilarious. As I said, in the first 30 seconds of watching The Big Sick. I saw this for the first time in a press screening, and sometimes press screenings are pretty stuffy. I mean, 30 seconds into this movie, everybody's laughing, roaring with laughter. And you don't really stop laughing ever in this movie. I mean, you get a big laugh in this film every 30 to 45 seconds. Not exaggerating. And on top of that, it tells a beautiful, sweet, heartfelt story. The Big Sick is a romantic comedy. It is a great romantic comedy, and it's also a lot more than that. The first act of this movie is Kumail and Emily meeting, falling in love. What you'd expect from a rom-com, and it's, you know, pretty much perfectly done. And then when Emily falls into a coma, this movie becomes something else entirely. Also, as this is going on, Kumail is struggling with his family and with his identity as a Muslim American, and this movie is also, in addition to being a great romantic comedy, this is a terrific drama about identity and about family. This screenplay is solid gold. And, you know, I'm sure a ton of work went into this screenplay. As for Kumail himself, who, if you don't know him, he's on Silicon Valley, you know, he's been pretty big for a few years now. This movie makes him a movie star. I mean, he's a leading man. Everything is great about this movie, but, you know, to a large extent, he carries this movie on his shoulders, and this movie, you know, lives and dies on his performance, and this is a leading man turn. What this reminds me of is Kristen Wiig 6 years ago. You know, Bridesmaids came out and she co-wrote that, and she starred in that. You know, it was just like this arrival of a new movie star and a new voice in comedy. I feel the same way about Kumail here. I mean, this announces the arrival of this new star and this new voice. Also, obviously, a lot of credit has to go to Michael Showalter for how damn good this movie turned out. You know, he's working with a great screenplay and so many brilliant actors. And, you know, to make a movie work this well, to have all of these actors collaborate as well as they do, absolutely reflects majorly on the director. Apparently, Michael Showalter was a great director to work for, and everyone who worked on this movie really enjoyed working on it. And the way that I know that is that I interviewed Michael Showalter and Holly Hunter in person about this movie last week, which was, I mean, one of the most surreal experiences of my life thus far. Once those interviews are up on Parade Online, I'm going to put links to them down in the comments. They're not up yet. They will be soon. When they are, definitely check them out because the interviews were great. It was great talking to them because I love this movie so much, and that's always the best place you can be in, going into an interview. Go see this movie. Go see this movie with an audience. Go laugh your butt off. I hope that this movie makes a ton of money. I think if this movie makes a ton of money, that could be a great statement that we're open to seeing these kinds of characters in our mainstream movies. This is my favorite movie so far in 2017. I've loved many movies this year. You know, I loved Personal Shopper. I loved Wonder Woman. I loved Raw. I loved Berlin Syndrome. I've loved many movies this year. This is my favorite movie I've seen this year. Just everything about this movie works. I know I will be kicking myself if I don't, so I'm going to give The Big Sick my first 10 out of 10 in 2017. Just go. Thank you so much, as always, for tuning into my channel. I appreciate your support so much. Seriously, it means a great deal to me. I appreciate you guys sticking it out with me while I've been moving around and getting grounded back in Los Angeles. Thank you for following me. Thank you for sticking it out with me. Your support means a great deal to me. Please follow my writing on Parade. It's parade.com/member/Samuel Murrian. If you like what you see, please subscribe to my channel. Take care of yourselves and be well, everybody. Bye!